Hi Stampers, this is Melissa Johnson, independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and this is Stampin' with MJ. Welcome to a new class. We're going to make a couple of fun folds tonight. It is May 17th, 2026. If you are watching this and you have ever thought of becoming a demonstrator, I would love to have you join my Ink and Awesome team. There is a special going on this month that if you purchase the kit for $99, you get $125 in product of your choosing, but you will also receive the 5 new in-color ink pads in the brand new style, which looks like this. And these are the brand new magnetic pads. So easy to open. In the 5 new colors. So we have Peaceful Pine, Hydrangea Hue, Golden Glow, Crisp Cantaloupe, and Barely Blush. That's $14 per pad. So this is a really good deal. If you've already got the ink pads and you decide that's not how you want to go, then you can choose another $35 in product on top of the $125. Still a good deal. All right, let's get started. So we have, I'm actually using the February, I believe it's the February paper for the product of the month. And it was called Painted Illusions. Let me see, January was a stamp set. Yeah, this was February. And it's just a lot of nice, bright, fun colors and patterns. I'm not sure if it's still available, but it is. If you spend $75, you can choose the stamp or product of the month for $5. It is something you have to add to your cart. It'll come up in your cart that you've qualified for it. Make sure you click on the Shop Now button for that. And if you would like it, you have to add it because it is an additional $5. It's not a free item. So you have to approve adding that to your cart. So we are going to use the, let's see. For this card, we're going to use the Woolly Friends bundle. And that one has a punch. So we've got a stamp set and a punch. And I'm going to give you a little hint on how to use this punch to make your life a little easier. And then this other set that we're using is called Springtime Scenes, which is, those are the dies for that one. I love this ladybug. Haven't used it yet, but I do like it. And we're using, actually, on the Woolly Friends card, this Celebrate New Beginnings. I just thought that was great for a baby card. So we're going to use that with this bundle. And then we're going to use You Brighten My Day on the second card. So let me show you. Oh, and on this card, we're all, sorry, I know I keep kind of skipping around. We're also going to use the Stylish Shapes dies. This is a great set to have in your arsenal because just great shapes, but you have the stitching around them. So, all right. So let's look at how these work. This one is a little slider card. So when you open it, the little sentiment piece slides out. And then this one actually has like a stopper here, and it ends up folding like this. So let me show you when it's standing up. Can you see that? I feel like my, sorry, I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit because I feel like it is down way too low. So let me get that adjusted real quick. Okay. Is that any better? There we go. And then I can zoom in just a little bit for you. Okay, so that's our 2 fun folds for tonight. So let's get started. I think we'll start with this Woolly Friends card. So I have all my pieces here. The card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So 4 1/4, 5 1/2. This piece is 5 1/4 by 8 1/2. It is scored at 2 3/4 and 6 3/4. So that's that piece. Then we have, move this out of the way. We have our inside slider sentiment piece. This is 3 3/4 by 4 1/4, and it is scored at 3/8 inch. And then we have the sentiment piece, which I've already started stamping because I didn't want to take the time to have you watch me color things. So I will say this though, this stamp set has, is it easier to see it on here? Here. So this is the piece I used for the flowers, but it has the fill-in pieces, which is nice. So you can color it if you choose, but I just used Flirty Flamingo and Granny Apple Green ink and stamped right in it. So that's really easy. You also have 2 back ends for your sheep, or front ends, if you will. One is jumping and one is standing. There is a fill-in piece if you decide to color your sheep. We're not going to today. We're just leaving it white. We're also going to use this bow and the Welcome Cutie stamp. So that's what I've used here. Okay, so then on the inside of our card, we have these 2 pieces. So this piece is 1 5/8 by 5 1/8. And this piece that goes on the left side here is 2 5/8 by 5 1/8. Then on the front of the card, so here, we have a piece that is 2 3/8. Well, that doesn't make sense. I think it's 2 3/8. Sorry, I have it written down, but that does not sound right. 2 5/8 by 5 1/8. That's the Petal Pink piece. And then I took a piece of basic white and I embossed it with the All in a Row embossing folder. And this piece is 2 1/2 by 5. It does shrink up a little bit when you emboss it, but not too much. All right, so let's get started putting this together. So we're going to start with the pieces that go here. So I'm going to glue this piece of DSP to that left side. And I will have an even border all the way around. Like so. And then we need a piece over here. So I'm folding that right side in. This is eventually going to create a pocket over here. And again, even border all the way around. Okay. Then we have this piece. Now, I do want to finish any stamping on this. So let's do a little bit of stamping for a minute here. I wanted to show you something. So I've used, now I don't have the new Stampin' Up! Positioner yet. It is on my list to get. So I'm using what I have. But what I've done is I took a piece of cardstock and I punched using my punch. Sorry, I think it goes like that. There we go. I punched it out, and now I'm going to use this as a template. So as I stamp, let's do it like this because that's how I'm going to hold it. As I stamp, I will be able to get my things lined up. So a stamp positioner is a really good way to do this. If you don't, you can just use this laying on another piece of cardstock. So what I've done is I've put my stamps inside those punched out pieces, and that's where I'm going to end up stamping. Now I do have an extra face on this one, but I wanted you to see. Sorry, it ends up like this. like so. So now when I go to punch it out, it should punch out pretty evenly. All right, so let's see what that looks like when we go to punch it. And watch, it won't be lined up because I've told you how great this is, right? Oh, you know what? I did stamp it upside down. Huh. All right, so let's redo that. Now I'll just show you how to do it. Okay, so if I'm stamping this, I'm trying to figure out what I did here. Ah, I see what I did. Okay, so I need to have my bottom of the sheep upside down and the head right side up. So I'm just repositioning those. Okay. And then I'm going to use the back side of that one. And I'm just going to go ahead and re-stamp that for you. All right. So you got to look at mistakes as opportunities for improvement, right? Or teaching moments. So, all right, let me clean that off real quick. Put that aside. All right, let's see if it lines up this time. It should. Oh, much better. Okay, so see how that's lining right up in there? And then I'm just going to give it a punch. So it will cut out the cowbell and the bow, but we're not using that piece. Oh, and I didn't do that too well, did I? Well, my head punched out perfectly. I wonder why that one didn't. All right, we might have to do it again. But right now, I'm going to go in here and try to get this head punched out that I already had. I have really not done this too well today. I don't know what's going on. All right, let's see if we can get that in there. Nope. Okay, we're going to start over. I don't know what's going on today. All right. So I had it in here. Right side up. Maybe I didn't get this lined up too well. All right. Let's try this again. All right. Let's see if it works this time. I'm just going to grab a piece of cardstock. Let's see if that'll work. Hopefully that's big enough to work. Let's see. It's pretty close, but it should work. All right. So let's go ahead and stamp that again. All right, let's try this once again. Oh, that's much better. Now I see a nice line around it. There we go. I have a cat that's coming up onto the table, so hopefully... oh, you know what? We're going to use that second head because I needed two heads. All right, but that body is so much better. All right, let's go with that. Third time was the charm. Okay, so that's the punch. Truly what I was trying to tell you is the template does work if you use it correctly. I apparently did not. Okay, so let's go back to this piece. We're going to go ahead and glue. Now, you want to glue this head flat on the inside because it's going to go in and out of the pocket. So you want it to be flush with the cardstock. And we're just going to kind of, oh, you know what? I had a bow also. Where'd my bows go? Here they are. I'm going to glue this to the back of the head also. So just kind of doing that. Gotta have a pretty little pink bow for a girly baby card, right? Okay. So we're going to put this on here, like so. And if you have glue on your fingers, I highly recommend this glue eraser. Looks like a little Triscuit cracker. Okay, so let's fold this piece back. We have, remember we did the score mark at 3/8 of an inch. So let's fold that back and give that a good burnish. And then we're going to put some tear and tape on that, which I hopefully have enough of. Okay, so like so. And let's glue this piece on. Again, I'm going to have a border all the way around, like so. Slide that over just a little bit. All right, and then I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool to get that backing off of there. So the first thing we need to do is line this up. So I have this side open completely. I'm lining this up with the fold, but I don't want to go on top of that fold. So I'm lining it right up in there. I have it even top to bottom, and then I'm going to close the card. Okay, then, so it's going to look something like that. Now I need to glue these two areas shut. So I'm just doing a really thin bead of glue just on the top and the bottom, like so. You can use tear and tape also, but liquid glue works fine. Okay, I'm just going to hold that down for a second. And then this will slide right in. See how it slides out? So that's how that works. All right, so then the front of our card, we're just going to do some layering. So I do know that I need to glue the bow to the back of my sheep head. And don't do what I just did. You don't need the glue everywhere. You just need it on the bow, because we are actually going to pop this up. So I'm going to put that on there like so. And then I am going to put a dimensional on the back. You can see this was one that I messed up, so we've got the head stamped twice there, but that's all right. We're not going to see it. So just one dimensional there. Then we have our Petal Pink and our embossed piece that we're going to layer together. I do like to use liquid glue on embossed pieces just because of all of the texture in it, and this helps hold it down. Okay, and again, even border all the way around. Like so. I'm just kind of sliding it a little bit. Another reason I like liquid glue. All right, and then this is going to go right on that left side flap. So let's go ahead and put that on. Like so. And then we just need to add a couple of things. So we're going to glue the body on toward the bottom. Like so. So I've seen this set used where they did kind of a, they've done white sheeps and then one black sheep, you know, kind of like the black sheep of the family or whatever. So I'm going to do the head a little cockeyed on this one. Isn't that cute? And now it has a little dimension because we used a dimensional to pop that up. And then we're going to go ahead and pop this up as well. So let me put some dimensionals on that. Now, again, like I said, I used the Nested Essentials dies on this, and I did, I'm just going to do 3 like that. I did cut the edge off. This banner die actually has flags at both ends. I used the largest one, and I just cut it to where I needed it. I want it to be flush with the edge of the Petal Pink, not the edge of the card. So I'm going to come out here like so. I'm about a 1/2 inch down from the top. I am lining it up with that Petal Pink piece and then putting that on there. And the last thing we need to do is add some embellishments, which I need to find because I now have some things buried. Okay, we're going to use these adhesive backed dots for days. It is different than what I used on my original card, but I did run out of those. So, all right, we're going to use a large one. Right about here. And a small one up here. I'm just going to kind of put it right next to that Celebrate. And another small one down here on a diagonal. So like I always say, I like to kind of create a triangle with the embellishments. It's the most pleasing to the eye. And an odd number. So if you want to use 5, 7, 9, you can do that. Odd numbers, I guess, they're just more visually pleasing. So there's our first card, little slider pocket card. Now let's get to work on this. Oh, you know what? Nope, we're not done. We have to put that whole thing on our actual card base to make it a regular size card. So let's do that. Apparently, it's been a while since I made this card, so it's gets harder to make them when you haven't done it in a while. Thus all my little errors. All right, now our first card is done. I was wondering why that was still laying there. Okay. Our next card, which I just remembered, there's something else I didn't do on this card. So let me cut something real quick. We need pieces that, well, let's see, that's about 1 inch, so I'm going to go by 2 inches. This is going to be our little spring mechanism for the focal piece on the front of our card. All right, so let's look at this card. This is the card we're going to do. So I have a card base that is 5.5 by 8.5. It is scored at 2 1/8 and 4 1/4. Okay. Then we have 2 pieces of cardstock for the front. Those are 2 by 5 3/8, and that's going to go here and here. But before I do that, we're going to put our mechanism on because I like to hide it. Some people don't hide it, and honestly, it's easy to hide it, so I would rather hide it. All right, then we have 2 pieces of DSP. These are 1 7/8 by 5 1/4, and those are going to be layered on here like so. Okay, so let's do that much, but we're going to put our mechanism on first. And the reason I want to do that first is so that when the card is open, do you see this piece right here? That's our mechanism. It's hidden because it's on the same color, and I have it under that DSP. If you didn't hide it, you're going to see this whole piece laying inside of here. And that's, I find it more attractive, I guess, to hide it. So let's hide it. So I'm taking a piece that is 1 inch by 2 inches, and I'm folding them in half. I have 2 of those. Okay. And I like to kind of call these the greater than and less than symbols, because we're going to put them on our card like so that the V is going out this way on this side and this way on this side. So they're going to end up like this. So let's go ahead and get those glued on. And I'm going right up to the fold, but I'm not going over the fold. And I am centering it top to bottom somewhat. It doesn't have to be exact. Okay. So I'm going up to the fold, but not on it, because we want it to be able to fold. But can you see that now? Where we have those wings there, okay? So now we can go ahead and layer these other pieces on top. So let's go ahead and put our DSP on top of the cardstock. And it's going to have an even border all the way around. Okay. Now this is similar, the mechanism anyway, to another card we did a couple months ago. But it's a totally different look. Just kind of it's a good overall mechanism for popping some things up on the front of your card. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and put these on, and I'm covering what I just glued down, so it will hide it. Like so. And I should have just a tiny border all the way around on that one. So now that one's hidden. Let's hide that one. Okay. Like so. All right, we're going to come back to the front of our card in just a moment. Let's go to the inside real quick. So I have a piece that is going to make our little pop-up mechanism. This is let's see, what is that? This is 5/8 by 5 3/8, and then this piece, I'm going to use this side, is 1/2 inch by 5 1/4. We're going to layer those two together. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we're going to put dimensionals on the back of this, and that's what's going to hold our card front in that popped up position. Okay, so we have that. Let's add some dimensionals. I had to get a fresh pack out because I didn't want you to have to wait for me to cut the edges of my other ones. But the whole edge is usable, so make sure that you're using all of it. Look at that. This whole edge is usable. Okay, I'm going to put about 4. Like so. Okay, so I have 4 on there. Then I'm going to put this on the right edge of the inside of our card. And I'm going to leave a border on the top, bottom, and right edge. So just a very slight border there, okay? Then this piece is 3 1/2 by 5 1/4. And you could stamp a sentiment on this. I left it blank just because our outside sentiment is "You brighten my day." You could put anything on there. You could put "Happy Birthday." And I'm leaving this an even border all the way around. Okay, like so. So there's that piece. So that's the inside of our card. And again, this gives you room to write. If you're not a writer, by all means, stamp a sentiment on there. All right, then we have all these fun layers from the dies. So there's one that cuts this circle, but it also cuts a frame. And here's the frame to that. But we're not going to use the frame today. We're going to use all of these pieces together. So I'm going to start. Now this is not exactly going to fit on here, and that's okay. I'm just going to put no glue on this outer edge, and I'm just going to kind of put a couple of dots on the leaves. It doesn't have to be everywhere, just enough to hold it down. I am trying to get the leaves that are close to the edge, but not all the way on that circle, the outer circle. Okay, and then I'm actually going to get this out because I keep getting glue all over my mat here. Okay, so now I'm just going to glue that down, and I'm just centering it as best as I can. It doesn't matter if it shows through or not. Okay, it's okay if you have an edge on there. All right, so that's what we're left with. Now I do feel like this is possibly directional somewhat. I don't know. You decide. But I am going to use this piece, and I'm going to aim that more toward the right side. Now this one, I do want glue around the outer circle. So I'm just going to do little dots. It's not necessary to glue every inch of it. So I'm just doing dots here and there. I am going around the whole thing. And then I think I'm going to do just a couple here where they might get caught on something. So just a couple on the inside here. Okay. And then, like I said, that's going to go mostly toward the right. And we're just lining up those two outer circles. Like so. Doesn't that give that kind of a really neat layered look? So cool. Okay, then we have You Brighten My Day. So what I did here is there is a stamp similar to this die cut, and I used Granny Apple Green and Pretty Peacock, and I stamped off once. So I'm using second generation, and then I used black for the sentiment. So let's put these two pieces. I'm going to put this kind of like this, and then this one, I kind of want to tuck this into the front of that, I think. So I think I'm going to put that on first. Let's just do that. So I'm only going to put glue like on that stem. The whole thing doesn't need to be glued down on this. And I'm going to kind of maybe put that over the word you a little bit. Then I'm going to do the same thing, just putting glue on the front of here, like so. And I'm going to lay this on here and just kind of go like that. Okay, so there's our focal piece. And see how we're bringing that in so that our leaves now show all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that. Now, let's put, we're just gluing this flat on. So I'm only going to put glue along this top edge, maybe down just a little bit, because most of this is going to hang off. So kind of like so. Okay, so let's make sure we don't have glue hanging out on the back. I had a little bit. I'm actually going to use a little bit of a powder on there just to make sure it doesn't stick to my card front, because I do want it to pop up. Okay, and then our almost last step is we're going to put glue on these two flaps. And then we're just going to lay our focal piece on that. So I'm kind of flattening it a little bit. And then I'm going to lay that on there. So now, when we open it, that's just kind of hanging off of the front of the card. Isn't that cool? Okay, then the embellishments that we're going to use on this one, I just saw them. Where did they go? Here we are. I'm not sure if these are still available, but this is what I had. Remember it was a turtle set. I didn't like the turtle set, but I liked the embossing folder and the embellishments. So this is the Shades of Green hexagons. And there is Pretty Peacock in here, which is nice. If I can get them out of my little thing. This is a passport pocket. And I usually try to do that for all of my embellishments. It just helps me to find them quicker. We're going to use the Pretty Peacock. And I'm going to use a large one up here. And then a smaller one. Again, I'm creating that triangle. And then I'm going to use another one here on the You Brighten My Day. So again, we have kind of our triangle shape going there. And that is our second card. I hope you enjoyed these cards. If you have any questions, post them in the comments and I will try to make sure I look at those. Here's the cards that we made today. And I hope you have a great week. It is Sunday, so tomorrow is Monday. Have a great week at work. Or whatever that you get to do during the day. And I will see you next time. Take care.